Friends, I have not only one of my clients, but one of my good friends named Rob here. Rob has been a client of mine for over a year now. He's taken a lot of time to get acclimated to trading. He's gone through the ups and downs, and he is now what I would personally call profitable, having had the last couple months being an overall net profit. Rob is not a best-selling author. Rob is not a millionaire. He doesn't have any yachts or Lamborghinis or mansions or a bunch of girls laying around by the pool. Rob is just a normal bloke from the UK. He's an artist, he's a father, and he just lives a simple life. He enjoys going to the park to feed squirrels and pigeons with his daughter, going on little hiking and camping trips. He is just a person that loves living life, and trading is giving him the opportunity to start living life now at a different level. And so, with that said, I wanted to take this time to talk to Robert today because Robert is a person just like me. He's wanted to start trading. He didn't have super high expectations. He just took the time to learn, and now he's getting there. And then on top of that, Robert may be a person that is just like you. You may be a person who doesn't desire to have all these materialistic things, but you just want to have a life where you can spend a little bit more time with your family, maybe not have to go to a job that you hate, and be able to live the life that you know that you deserve. Rob is a person who has gone through all the hard work and gone through all the ups and downs, and now he is in the process of currently starting to transition into what I will call profitability. I want to pose this question first before we start. Rob, tell me, what was the biggest reason that you got into trading?
Money.
Oh, who would have guessed?
um, yeah, it seems to fit in with my routine. I'm in the house a lot. Not that I don't go out, but I don't like. I've worked retail. Not a massive fan of dealing with complaints and bosses. So self-employment has always been my sort of path. Started off, always been art focused. Started off selling pencil portraits. Moved on to tattoo art. Did that for many years, and now I do oil paintings. I've always just kind of had no boss, and I've always had a fixation on video games as well. And trading is just like another video game, but you get actual prizes at the end of it.
That's amazing. And yeah, and so you spend a lot of your time just doing the stuff that you love. Like, for example, like you're a full-time artist. We're actually in your studio right now. You feel more focused when you're in your studio?
I would if it wasn't so hot. It gets really uncomfortably warm up here. I've got this crap. Can you hear the air conditioner? By the way, I can turn it off if it's annoying. But I've got this terrible air conditioner that just blows hot air at me. But gives the illusion of cooling me down. But yeah, no, this is nice.
Amazing. Okay, so sweet. So you got into trading, very well said, right? Money. Like I got into it as well. My real reason was freedom, but being able to have freedom in a first world country like the United States and like the United Kingdom and England where you live, money is a big factor into having that kind of freedom because that gives you time freedom, financial freedom, freedom from worry about having to pay bills and stay alive. It's funny, we're the only animal that has to pay to live here on Earth. And so doing something like trading to generate money to get that freedom is something that I think a lot of people aspire to. So you started, you had very humble beginnings. You were trying a bunch of different stuff. What I'm interested in getting at here, and what a lot of people are probably interested in as well, is what was the sort of shift where it was like the crux of the bottom of the roller coaster ride when things started to go up? I'm trying to figure out what the little transitional pieces were that started allowing you to sort of get a grasp on actually making progress to get towards profitability. Can you speak to that at all?
Yeah, it was. I know the exact moment because for the first time ever, I meditated, and it was on your course I think it was the compounding course, and you had it was maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and it was the most important piece of information on that entire thing for me. The whole course was that meditation because it was less it what there it taught me there was no right or wrong. Basically, it taught me to meditate. It taught me to see things differently, and it helped me through not just trading but through everything in life. It gave me a new perspective on everything. So I've always said to you, like, if I'm grateful for like nothing else. If I never make it as a trader, I'll always be grateful for that little tiny section of just try meditating. And I tried meditating, and it was like instant insight. That first time ever, I was like, oh shit, there's like a whole other side to life that I've missed, and it applies perfectly to trading. So yeah, that was the genesis of my start to I don't know, profitability, seeing things in a new light.
Interesting. So meditation. Now, I'm sure that in this whole, book of Rob's trading journey, there's, quite literally a chapter at the front with meditation. And I'm sure there's a bunch of reasons as to why meditation has helped you. If we're to go to the very top of that list, can you put your finger on what you think was the most important part of how meditation actually helped you transition towards profitability?
It helped me to see thoughts differently. Like your brain is always thinking something, you're always thinking something, and it often we've all got this self-preservation sort of mind reflex where it's well fear actually. We've got fear that keeps us from dying, which keeps us from bad things, and it taught me to see fear in a different way. This wasn't the first time I meditated. I realized this, by the way. This was just something important I noticed upon doing it for a long time. um yeah, it taught me to see fear differently and all emotions. And that was that to me is one of the most important parts about trading is emotional management. And when you realize what I've learned, what I've learned through meditation, when you kind of understand that, it really helps you to deal with the emotional roller coaster you go through when you're in a trade that's in drawdown or in profit, or when you don't want to close, or when you think you should, or whatever. When you're trying to make a decision, all these emotions are going to fire at you, and fear is going to be at the forefront almost all the time if you're that type of person, which I think a lot of people are. And it helped me to deal with that a lot better.
So what you're saying is prior to getting into sort of this concept of meditation and this practice, you would get into trades, you would notice some of them would go into profit, some of them would go into loss. And what you're saying is prior to this, a lot of those decisions that you would make would come as a result of fear to some degree.
Yes.
Okay, so to some degree, there's fear influencing your trading decisions. If you were to just give a simple example of something that would happen on the chart while you're trading, that would then cause you to feel a feeling of fear, and then what you would do to respond to that fear prior to you having this practice of meditation, what would that example be?
um getting into a long position, and it not going immediately into profit to some degree. It goes against you, and you go, shit, I really thought it was going to go up there, and it didn't.
Okay, so
And you think, oh, it's going to keep falling forever and ever and ever. I better close it now.
so I mean, we'll go through this example. So you would buy, it wouldn't immediately go into profit, it would maybe start going a little bit against you. Try to explain and put into words like that feeling that you get that you characterize as fear as it starts to go against you, and then tell me how that motivates you to then make a decision that is not in your best interest of being profitable.
Because very frequently you'll enter a trade and it will go against you at some point. Um, and when you've got that expectation that okay, the chart has done this, it's bouncing at resistance and it's making higher lows, so it's going to break through. So I'm going to get long, and it's going to break through. And at the moment you think it's about to break through, it doesn't. It makes a new low, and he goes, damn, close the trade. You lose whatever, some money, and then it comes back up, and then it breaks through. So you closed due to fear, not because it didn't break all of the lows. It hasn't gone out of the zone. And if you look on the 4 hour, it's actually still an uptrend. You would have been fine. You could have held it way past that, and it would have been fine. So obviously that's the sort of the, I don't want to say what I'm thinking, the retrospective clarity you have of looking back on a trade where you did something badly. You did something that really you shouldn't have done. You should, yeah.
So what you've done now is like since we got past this little barrier of meditation and mindfulness, you've come into this new territory where it seems like, you're more enlightened, like there's more light, there's more clarity, there's less fog. And now you're able to sort of recognize when you have fear and when that fear might be about to influence a trading decision, but you're able to what? Like somehow like navigate past that and then make a good decision, quote unquote, good decision instead of a decision that was based on fear. And if so, walk me through this process of how that occurs and like how you've gotten sort of past this.
Um, I think in particular, uh, my particular outlook on this is, I'll give you an example in the context of a trade. If the 4 hours in an uptrend and you get into a trade, I trade on shorter time frames generally. I'll place my trades on shorter time frames, but put them in the context of a higher time frame. So I'll get into it on the 5 minute, but I'll look on the 4 hour to be like, right, where's my stop loss going to go then? Where is this likely to bounce and turn around if it doesn't continue perfectly what it's doing? I'll if it can go against me, it's allowed to. I've allowed that beforehand. You can go against me this much. If you go beyond this point, I'll probably get out of it and just take the loss and move on. And I'll be okay with that before placing the trade. If this gets to this point, it's not going to feel good. It's going to feel like shit. You're going to feel crappy for a bit, and that's fine. This happens in trading. So when inevitably I take a trade and it loses, I'll feel like crap. I'm not going to get rid of the bad feeling. I'm just going to look at it a different way and be like, you expect this. This is okay. This is supposed to feel like this. And it just kind of makes you okay with feeling rubbish. Like, yeah, feel rubbish. It's totally okay. You're entitled to this. But you sort of feel better about it. It's weird. It's like, it's okay. You knew this was a possibility and it's happened. So it's all right.
Interesting. I feel like a lot of people really struggle to get past that hurdle of having discursive thoughts, emotions, feelings that then dictate that there is an element of fear that they are presented with. And then they make the decision to respond to that fear to try to make themselves feel better or try to make themselves like get out from under the fire instead of making the decision that is in their best interest that contributes to long-term profitability. You being a person who's gotten past this is very interesting because now it's as if you have this sort of self-awareness that like you're like, okay, I'm in a trade, I bought, I'm hoping it goes up, but I understand that, maybe half the time it doesn't immediately go up. Maybe it starts going against me a little bit. Do you find that doing any sort of pre-planning before you get into the trade, is there anything specific that you think that you can do to sort of mitigate the amount of fear that you're actually going to feel should a trade start to go against you? And if so, what are some of those things you could do in the pre-planning of a trade to help sort of lessen the impact and presence of fear?
Um, yeah, I mean, if it goes against me, I'll look for. I basically, as far as my technical analysis goes, is I just look at support and resistance. I learned pretty much the only two trading gurus I've ever listened to are you and Tom Hugard, and I trade like a mixture of you both. I don't trade exactly like you. I don't trade exactly like him. And so I'll look at support and resistance zones, and I'll be like, We'll go with the other example. It's in an uptrend. The previous place it bounced on the 4 hour is here. Amount of pips is this far away. Am I okay with losing that amount of money, or is that just out of the question? I've got a 5,000. I've got a £5,000 account now. I've got a £5,000 account. Excuse my camera. This is 1,000 pips. This is a £1,000 loss if it stops out. Am I okay with that? No, I'm not okay with that. So either I wait or I get in, and I find another completely subjective, in my opinion, zone where I think it could bounce, and I plan, okay, I'm going to buy there, and I'm going to buy, and if it fails there, I'm going to buy there, and by this point, if it breaks this zone, I'm just not interested in the trade anymore, and I'll just take a loss. But chances are I probably wouldn't get into the trade if there was 1,000 pips between me and the next support zone.
This is so interesting. So it sounds like a lot of the planning of mainly by what you've said, it sounds like the risk structure, just planning out what the risk is going to be, asking yourself what you're comfortable with, and then making sure that your actions align with what your beliefs and risk tolerance are. Those sort of things being in alignment seems to mitigate a lot of your quote unquote fear and negative emotions you might have associated with the trade if it starts going into drawdown. Would you say this is an accurate characterization?
Yeah, I would say it's almost like I learned most of it from you.
I myself have learned quite a bit over the past few years, right? I've been trading 8 years, about 6 of those years have been profitable, and I've continued to kind of adapt and mold and change and evolve and improve, in my opinion, over the course of my entire trading journey. And I myself, right, even still today, like sometimes I get into a trade and then there's like maybe 5% of the time I start feeling those kind of feelings of fear, right? And I've become well acquainted with those feelings throughout my whole trading career, right? Trading is one of these weird things you can wake up and quote to go to work every day. You go to the charts, you place trades, this and that. You can get to the end of the month or the end of a 2 month period, and you can be like down, like losing money or break even. You've worked every day for a month or two and you've just not made any money. You've broken even. Trading is one of those very, very weird things. But I think fear, not only on a trade by trade basis, but fear in terms of long-term profitability, like wondering whether or not, like, okay, this is a losing streak. I'm not worried about the next trade, but man, I'm on a losing streak. When is the losing streak going to end? And also vice versa. You may be on a winning streak. You may be like, I'm doing really well right now. I wonder, is this going to continue for a while, or is the next losing streak just around the corner and then I'm gonna have to deal with that next week or next month? Can you speak at all to the fear, but not just on a trade by trade basis, but on a fear of like long-term perspective? Is there any other sort of anxiety or anything you have around trading that is not directly related to just an individual trade by trade basis? And if you do have any types of fears or anxieties in sort of the framework of kind of the trying to think of that word for like valence, any sort of fear and anxiety in the valence of all your trading activities that you kind of worry about here and there.
No,
Wow.
I'm not. That I say that sounds arrogant and cocky, but it's not. It's just an imagined reality. It's literally not happened. It's not real. It's just one potential outcome. It's also just as likely that I'll just be infinitely profitable forever and ever and ever. And what is a losing streak? If I'm trading on the 5 minute chart, is a losing streak 10 trades that are taken one day, and then I take 30 more over the next 3 days that win? Or is it a month of losing on the 5 minute chart and but 10 years of winning on the but followed by 10 years of winning? It's like it's and it's all subjective. So I just don't care about winning streaks and losing streaks. I focus on more how like just remaining profitable. I don't know how long a losing streak's going to last. You never do. It's all imaginary, and that's your fear response. Again, is telling you you're going to hit a losing streak at some point. Yeah, okay. I don't care. I'll hit a losing streak. I'll get through it, and then I'll carry on trading. It's impossible. You can't account for that because you don't know how long it's going to last. You don't know how much you're going to lose. You can just do a few. You can just do things to protect yourself against it. There's only so much you can do. You can't live fearlessly, but you can use fear as a measuring tool,
Mhm.
which is something I do in trading as well. I trade on the edge of stress. If I'm getting too stressed, I get out of the trade. If I'm feeling it a little bit, that's right where I want to be because that means when I win, it's going to be, say you've got a meter and edge of stress is here and this is too stressed. The other side of that is the edge of joy. I don't want to be, yeah, I risked everything and tripled my account in one trade. I want just a little bit before that. It's like, yes, fuck yes.
Very interesting. Yeah, what it certainly seems like is that your ability to respond to things like fear and negative emotions and discursive thoughts has really caused you to almost be free of the chains and the shackles of this thing that would otherwise bog you down. And the thing, which is fear, which ultimately bogs everyone else down, right? It's a fear response. Um, that is just so interesting. So as we continue through this, I want to talk a little bit more about maybe the technical side of your trading for a second, which I know you self-admittedly is very simple. You've told me before, like you buy when you think it's going up and you sell when you think it's going down, and you primarily just use support resistance to kind of like to kind of get in and out of trades. I want to go into a little bit of the mechanics about it. if you were to really simplify your trading approach and try to describe what it is right now, how would you describe your trading approach?
I trade one instrument. I trade the DAX. I've not been trading forex actually at all. So your what you've taught me has applied to other things as well. Um, and I at the moment I'm probably a trend trader, I suppose. It's it makes long sweeping moves that last for a long period of time on the DAX on in indices in general. So if it's been going down for the last 2 or 3 days and it took 2 weeks to come back up, I'm gonna buy low and sell lower, and close everything out by the end of the day and go to sleep, not worrying about what's happening overnight.
Interesting. Okay, sweet. So you're trading one asset, you're trading the DAX, and you
Mhm.
you probably have sort of a quote unquote feel for how the instrument moves since it's the only thing you trade. Do you think that the fact that you only trade one thing helps you sort of become more acquainted with it to where you can quote unquote feel it out a little bit better?
Um, I don't really. Hmm. I prefer it. I think I prefer just before when I was trading forex and indices and a bit of gold and bloody palladium and soybeans or something. I there was it was too there's it was chaos. There's some in profit, some in loss. I'm looking at this, I'm looking at that, and I totally get why people just close everything out in profit. Like if they've got 10 trades open and they've just gone into profit, I'm just going to close everything, because you're keeping track of too much. When I'm just looking, I wake up, look at one chart. What's it doing today? It's going down. Okay, how could I structure a sell on this or a short on this on the DAX? Okay, it's not ready yet. If it gets to here, then I'm going to get in. If it doesn't, if it turns around, I'll short it anyway because it looks like it's going down today. So I'm probably right. And yeah, that's kind of it. That's what you have to think about. Like if you keep things simple, it's like just trade one thing. Then, yeah, in my particular case, that's not advice. That's just what I do. And also, I started on the DAX. That was the first thing I ever traded.
Interesting. So you started on the DAX, you sort of went around and dated some of the other Forex currency pairs, and then you come back and then you just start trading the DAX and realize your home was right where you started. And so
Yeah, she was always my butt bitch. Sorry.
so when it comes to you trading the DAX and actually going into the mechanics of your entries, I know this may be a little bit hard to put into words because of the extreme subjective nature of manual trading to begin with, but why don't you describe kind of what you do to actually have to like see something happening that would then dictate you getting into a trade? Just walk us through that process.
Um, I look at what it's doing on the longer time frames. So on the 4 hour, if it's uh, going up, let's say price is going up, and the next resistance zone I can see on the
On the
4 hour
4 hour.
is far away. Sorry, I heard myself back then. But on the 5 minute, I'll look on the 1 hour and see what sort of shapes it's making, and it's trending up currently on a pullback. And on the 5 minute, it's just in a downtrend. Okay, so I'd look on the 1 hour for like, okay, where's it's going up today. It's been going up for the last 3 days. Let's have a look on the 1 hour. Okay, it's trending up, but on the 5 minute, it's currently at a pullback. Okay, so how far is it? If I enter now, where's the previous resistance on the 1 hour? If it's going to follow this trend,
Mhm.
um, if that's within, because I trade per pips, I don't go this distance is worth $100 to me. I go this distance is $1 per pip, and if it's 300 pips, it's $300. If it's 100 pips, it's $100. I'll wait until it gets to somewhere I'm comfortable, and or yeah, with room to add in, increasing my risk every time I add in, and that's it. And then I just wait.
Okay, so you use like kind of a DCA risk structure, and do you still use like a final invalidation or final stop loss, like worst case scenario?
Yeah. Yeah, because I can't, it's an index, and like I said, because I do a pound per pip or a pound per tick, I think it is on an index or on the DAX at least. yeah, it can move it can move thousands in a day. So I could blow my whole account on one trade. It's not likely, but I could lose a really substantial amount of money if I don't get into trades that look like they're going to benefit me. Like timing is a lot to do with the deck. In my case, timing has a lot to do with when I enter a trade or why I enter a trade.
Okay, so I'm just trying to
So
visualize this here. So like this is like say this is the 4 hour, 1 hour, it's going in an uptrend, there's like higher highs and higher lows, and then it sort of started to pull back on the 1 hour and 4 hour. If we're to zoom in on this little move right here, then we would see, it would look something like this on the 5 minute, right? It'd be kind of like going down. At what point
Mhm.
would you look to start buying, anticipating that the bigger time frame is going to start playing out upwards, but on the lower time frame, the 5 minute, it's still like going down? At what point do you think you would start to like look for buys?
If it was in that sort of position, like say we're at the bottom right there, yeah. Um, I would wait for something to look like it's going to come back up. So that could be the start of an uptrend. I say the start of an uptrend. An uptrend has formed and started, or it could be bouncing at resistance. It could be going up, hitting the same price but making higher lows every time. And I think, okay, it's likely to go up a bit. So let's get into it and see what happens. Yeah, it could be something like that.
Okay. And so then let's say like, I don't know. So let's say you buy like somewhere right there. But then after you buy, let's say it does something like this, right? It starts to kind of go up, but then it starts going down like that. What would you do in something like this, most likely? I know this is very subjective, but just trying to get a feel for how you would manage a losing trade.
I would hold it until it got to the previous lowest low, like there, and buy again.
Okay, so you would DCA again here. And your position sizing, do you increase it or you keep it the same lot size, or how does that work?
Depending on because I need to know how many pips this is to know how much I'm actually risking. But say if I was okay with this, if this was 50 pips, I'd be fine with it because it's a pound of pips, I'd be 50 pounds. So here I would add in, but I would add in lightly. I would go in actually at half sizing and see what happens. Because if it just rips through it, I will close it because this is a low on the 5 minute.
Mhm.
And it could come all the way down to that previous low on the 4 hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly there. So if I let it run down to there, that's let's say 200 quid. I would add in heavy there. And if it ignored it, it's likely to bounce. And if it bounces and looks like it's going to continue going down, starts forming lower highs or something, I would just close it and take the loss.
Okay, so sweet. So you would have bought up here and then you add down here. And what you're saying is if it breaks this low, so this would be analogous to like, it does something like that on the 4 hour, it breaks that recent low. You're saying is you would just close both buys right there?
No, I would just close the add in.
Okay, so you would just close that one.
Yeah.
And then let's say it like continues all the way down here, to,
Mhm.
on the 4 hour, the higher time frame, it's like that low right there. You're saying that
Yeah.
you then add right here?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna say that's the 4 hour low, right? It's a big support zone. So you buy. Um, what if something like this happens? So it starts going up, and then it comes back to the support, and then it starts doing something like this. Would you do anything here? Would you just hold it, or what would that look like?
I just close it
Okay, and you would close it, and why would you close something like this?
because it's likely that like where it is now, where that the lowest point on that 5 minute chart is where I have okayed my loss with myself. If it goes beyond that, I'm losing more than I'm comfortable with. I don't want to be too comfortable with the loss. I want, like I said, I want to be right on the edge of being stressed out. So if that's £200, I know it's a 5 grand account. And there's not that much to 5 grand, but it's a lot of money to me. If I lost that, it would hurt a bit. And if I won 200 quid, it would make me feel good a little bit. So this £200 loss is fine. If I've added an extra £2, say I've doubled my sizing here at £2 a point, it's more likely to bounce here now.
Mhm.
So it doesn't have to move nearly as far just to break even. If it goes beyond that, or it starts showing me some sort of shape that is going to come back up, some kind of technical stuff that is going to come back up, then I'm good to hold it. If it looks like this, I'm still at the same loss. It's still £200. If it just ignored it and went rip straight through, it's not going to be that much more of a loss. It's going to be like 220 quid or something, or 230 30 quid. It's not going to be like I've gone from 200 quid loss to 500 quid loss.
Okay. So you would have had this first position here, then you would have added
Mhm.
here, but then that was closed at break even, or break even or a small loss, maybe whenever it broke.
Mhm.
Then it comes down here, you try again, like a second time you try another add in, but then it kind of starts going sideways, lower highs, kind of ranging, it's just not bouncing up. So then you close this second try for adding in right here. You close that around break even. Do you keep your first position open or do you close that one too down here? Like what would you do in this kind of case most likely?
I would close them both. I would just take the loss.
So you close them both. Let's say price then does something like this, right? It dips right past the low, pops back up, and then starts doing something like this. And then on the 5 minute,
Mhm.
it might look something like that, right? It goes down, pops back up, then it starts something like that. Would you try to get back into buys or would you leave it alone? Or what do you think you do? Considering that, it's still in session, it's still liquid and moving, what do you think you might do in something like this?
I would need more than that, I think, to consider a buy again. Because price now, I try like whenever I'm confused about what's going on, or if I'm getting fearful, I say, "What's price doing now?"
Yeah.
Price now is going down. Like over the on the 4 hour, it's going down.
Mhm.
So, like, do I want to buy now? Is there that much that looks like it's actually going up? It's been going up for ages and it's just broken a 4 hour low. Do I want to get into it? I might just leave it. I might trade something much smaller. Say it's on the 5 minute. I say, okay, it's made a high, 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 low, high, 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 higher low. It might make another higher high. So I'll just trade that and I'll just make a little bit, £1 a point or £2 a point, maybe go for a few pips and just do that a couple of times until I lose.
So would you say your position sizing is based on sort of how confident or how comfortable you are in the likelihood of the trade playing out?
No, not really. No, I would double my sizing at that extreme low that then it broke through because it doesn't matter at that point. I'm going to close it beyond there anyway. I've already made that decision before I got into the trade that beyond this point you're going to be losing too much money and you need to close it out. You've got to cap it somewhere. I think, in my opinion, I have to cap it somewhere at this point in my trading career. Um, so you might as well just add in heavy here, and if it goes back like less than half of the distance, you're at least break even. And if it comes back and looks like it's going to continue further, you can just close it out for basically the same loss. Yeah, that's still going to be about 200 quid. So,
Okay, interesting. So that leads me to another one. We've talked about how you sort of pre-plan these trades, talked about you wait for this and that, and then it's trending up and it's pulling back, then you get in. If it doesn't work out, you DCA in. I've also seen that you post in the close friends group all the time, like how you get these really big winners because you're actually adding to winning trades too, sort of depending on
hmm,
the situation. I wanted to show this example here, to kind of like show like that you've actually done this. So here's one of the examples right here that I found. So this was the DAX index. This is the DAX. And what you have here is you had a trade that you've got in. Here's the 5 minute chart, just like you said. You've got £1 per pip, so bet in 1 GBP. And then you've started adding in here sort of as it's been going into profit. And then you also have a
hmm,
here. I just kind of want to see like where did you start these positions at, and then sort of how did you manage it? If you could walk us through this trading idea.
the first trade is the top one that's currently in drawdown.
Okay, so and that was a buy up here.
Yeah, that's a buy, and it went against me.
Okay.
I think it looks like it went against me about 100 pips, which I was fine with. Um, and I was okay to hold it on the 1 hour. This was a new high, I think. I'm just trying to sort of deconstruct from this is a 5 minute chart, right? Yeah, 5 minutes. So it's an uptrend, and I was thinking, what are the chances that on the time I place my trade, it breaks trend? It's been doing this for ages. What's so special about my trade that it's going to suddenly decide to just stop trending? It's been doing it for ages. So I just got in, and it looked to me, I think, like it was going to make a bigger high. I think I probably went for a much smaller move. That green line you see, that dotted green line above my first order.
Yeah.
was probably my target, which isn't much. Um, so I bought there thinking it was going to continue. It didn't. It fell off, and before I got into the trade, I was like, okay, I'm cool to run it down to here before I before it stops out. So it got down there, and I bought again at half sizing.
Okay.
No, further beyond that, I bought in again right at the bottom. Yeah, that must have been where I bought in.
Close. Yeah.
Yeah, that one there. So I bought in there, and it started to bounce, and I didn't want to add to it until I started seeing like a break of previous highs. So as you can see, it started to come up, and it just kind of went up pretty straight line. But yeah, right there, yeah. So every time it broke a high, I don't know why I put that middle one in, but that may have been greed. Sometimes I lose it a bit, and I'm just like, oh, let's just add. I'm not as I know I can talk about it now, but when I'm in there, it is a bit different. I slip in and out of this sort of fear mindset I have. But yeah. So and then when it started to make new highs, pull back, make another new high, pull back a bit, make another new high, I just started adding, and think I closed most of these in profit. When was this?
It's a
I may
couple.
have closed all of them in profit.
Yeah, you posted a terminal. I think yeah, let's go look.
Um, yeah, it was it because it didn't break. It just trended. Yeah, there you go. So that was I think it spiked like, but it was in 1 second. It was like some news event happened. It spiked, ripped all the way through, and I was like really far in profit. And I was like, oh shit! But I just didn't have time to react as it came back super fast. Um, but I did hold it for a little bit afterwards to see if it wanted to continue, and it didn't, which is why that first one, that first £5.39 one, is in a small loss. But yeah, it didn't break the trend structure at all. So there was nothing to worry about. I just looked at the trend on the 1 hour, entered on the five. So we can do anything at once in the 5 minute. As long as it doesn't break the trend structure on the 1 hour or the 4 hour, then I'm good to stay in.
Okay, and this has been working for you for like, a couple months now as you sort of been getting into all this and transitioning to profitability. Now, naturally, what we see is every time somebody has a trading approach work for them, I've got mine that works for me personally long term. You've got yours, which ideally is going to work for you long term. There's always going to be a lot of people looking at it from different perspectives, and they might be thinking to themselves like, there's no way this is going to work for this guy long term. This guy is just martingaling. He's foolishly just buying in more positions. This guy's going to blow his account here pretty soon and be back to square one. Could you speak to all of that, all of those potential criticisms that people are, obviously, whether they say it or not, it's just me, some people thinking like what you're doing is, quote, gambling, and it's just never going to work long term. Could you speak to that at all?
I mean, it does work though. People are profitable traders for very long periods of time. That's why that's why there are books and courses and people teaching it. That's why there's even scam artists. You know it works, but you've got this mindset that only 10% of people will ever become profitable through trading. And it's like, okay, so it does happen. People do become profitable through trading. Oh, it'll never be me though. It'll never be this guy. Have you seen the statistics of it? It's like, okay, so be in the 10%, put some effort in and be the 10%. Like again, it's an imagined future where you're not going to be, it's probably not going to work out, but it has every chance to. You're just allowing these statistics to stop you from even trying. The only way you'll ever definitely not make any money is if you don't even try.
Yeah.
So,
I
no.
totally see that. Like, well, I'm trying to play devil's advocate here, still trying to put the fire on you here. Um, so let's say someone's saying something along the lines of like, what you're doing is gambling, and then you're essentially just guessing. You have no good risk to reward ratio. You're adding to a losing trade, which is the stupidest thing you could do. Someone's hurling all these things at you. How do you sort of respond to that? Like, you're gambling, you're martingale, you're adding into losing trades. You're not just buying and then having a good risk to reward ratio. And then you're just gambling essentially. Like, what can you speak to any of that? Like, how would you sort of justify what you're doing?
I'd say it's okay, it's gambling because you're placing a wager on an uncertain outcome, is the way you put it. To some degree, it is. In fact, in the UK, what I do is actually classified as gambling. So, yeah, you're right, but it's like educated gambling. It's not like putting money on a football game where you don't know anything about either of the teams. You don't know who's playing, you don't know who's good, you've never heard of either of the teams. It's like gambling, but you know that this team has just bought this really good player and this other really good goalkeeper. And the player they got is a striker and he scored 300 goals last season, blah, 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 blah. And the other team, they've been losing for a while. They're on a losing streak right now. So this team's really quite likely to win. So I'm going to put some money on that. They could lose, but you think it's more likely that they'll win. So yeah, to some degree, it is just gambling, but it's like you've made an educated decision. You haven't just gone, I don't know, whatever. Um, but also the beauty with trading is it gives you a chance to manage your trade. A trade can go wrong. If you lose that bet you placed on the football match, you've just lost the money. You can't change anything about it. You put the wager on, and then there's win lose. But with trading, it's like it's more nebulous than that. Two people can go long and short at exactly the same time on the same forex pair, and both win. It's so like how does that work then? How am I wrong? It just took longer to play out. I don't have any goal particularly in mind when I place the trade. I mean, I do a little bit, but I'm prepared to adapt to what the market shows me. If it looks like it's going down here and it's going to bounce, I'll say, okay, I'd rather wait for it to get down there, buy again where it might bounce, and have it come back up and profit on that move instead. I'll take less of a profit, but that's fine. I didn't lose. Than just go, right, here's my trade. It's either going here or it's going here. I'm leaving it. You can manage it. There's ways you can mitigate your losses and you get creative, and that's where the fun is in it. I think that makes it makes, like you said before, it's like an art form, and it really is, because you can take different approaches to doing the same thing. The goal is profit, but there's any number of ways you can do that. Like painting a picture, you can create colors and looks and textures and all sorts of things in numerous different ways, and they're all fine. It doesn't matter. If it works for you, it works. So yeah, tell me I'm gambling. Tell me I'm delusionally confident I'm living in a dream world. That's fine. I don't care. It's working. So what do I give a shit what you say?
It's just funny. I mean, I see a lot of the times, whether it's people criticizing my own trading or people criticizing other people's trading, I see so many people just sort of adhering to these ideologies they've heard. Like, no, you'd have to have a strategy. Yours is not clearly defined. You're just guessing. It's this pie in the sky, nebulous haze of maybe I'll do that sometimes, maybe I'll do that. And it's all over the place. And there is no way that it's going to work long term. You need to have a clear strategy where wait for a trend and the 50 EMA is going up and then it pulls back to the 50 EMA, and then there's a bullish 1 hour engulfing candle, then you buy with a 1 to 3 risk to reward ratio. This is the only way it will work long term. So what you're doing is essentially you're just waiting for something to happen that your brain subconsciously recognizes is a quote good setup that's worth trading. And then you're getting in with the risk structure that you've more or less kind of pre-planned. Like if this happens, this is what I'm probably going to do. And then if this happens and I add here, then it continues going south, then I'm just going to close all the trades at a loss, and that will be that. And then, if it ends in profit, it may end in profit, a break even, a huge profit. You may add to it if it goes into profitable trades. But overall, you're sort of just managing things based on your fluid discretion and your subjective dynamic ability to be able to actually manage trades in such a way that they end up either coming out in profitable or break even. I just find it so interesting that a lot of people have all these different perspectives on what it actually means to be profitable. And you are a person who is, in fact, so far over the past few months, profitable. And it looks like you have a kind of like a long-term potential to continue to be profitable long term because your risk of ruin is very low, right? You still cap your losses max, even though you add into them. You still have a final area where you're like, okay, I'm going to get out there. That'll be a big loss. Yes, it'll take me 1 or 2 or 3 trades to make back that loss and then go further into profit. But it's all something you're comfortable with, and it's all based on your discretion and your experience. And I think
Mm.
that's cool.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I learned it from you.
Absolutely, man. Buy when it goes up, sell when it goes down. Like, it is what it is. It's like throwing darts at a dartboard blindfolded. All that really matters is the
Yeah,
risk structure.
I think like overcomplicating it, you can literally it's so simple. What's price doing? okay, it's going up, so I'm going to get long. That where's it like where you know if it carries on doing exactly what it's doing, where is it going to pull back to? Probably here. Okay, if it goes any further, I'll just get out. It's decided not to do the thing I expected it to do, and that's fine. But it's more likely to just carry on doing it, even if it's something like it's bouncing at this resistance zone over and over again. It doesn't have to be a trend, which is why I said I guess at the moment I'm a trend trader because currently that's what the DAX kind of bounced. Actually, the DAX currently is bouncing at a resistance zone, and then it broke through. I even said it in the chat before it happened. Like it's bouncing at a resistance zone on the 4 hour. It could bounce again, or it could go through. And I didn't get in, and it just ripped through. So I'm not even right most of the time. It's just I'm just looking at what it's doing and choosing to participate in what it's currently doing. It's going up, so I'm going to find a way to get in long somewhere that doesn't risk me losing my whole account or an amount of money I'm not comfortable with. And I'll just do that over and over and over again, but throughout the day. That trade I closed and I actually re-entered, and I closed at about £100 profit, and I re-entered again and made another £100 profit. So it's not like I'm making huge amounts of money, but when you do it multiple times a day, every day, it builds up to suddenly. I cleared 6 months of losses. I say losses because I was basically break even for a very long time. But I'm in profit now on my account across the last 6 months since the beginning of the year. I'm in profit across all of that time. Sorry. So yeah, it's little wins, but you get them frequently enough. And yeah, you could just also say, why don't you just risk more per point then? Yeah, I could, but that makes that throws my risk structure off. And I need to allow margin for me to add in case it goes into drawdown. So that's why I don't go heavier at the moment, but I will do. I will work size up.
So what I'm seeing is like there may be like, it may come across as the way you're trading is very complicated and confusing and kind of hard to follow. And sometimes it's this and sometimes it's that. And this is a sincere, genuine question. Rob, why don't you just have a very clearly defined black and white set of trading rules? That way your trading is consistent.
Because I like to adapt to what the chart shows me, and black and white trading rules. The only black and white thing I have is this is where I'm getting out. That's it. Once it goes beyond this point, I'm just out of the trade, and I don't really care what it does after that. I'm fine with losing whatever the context, even if it goes through and comes back. You want to know, you know. It doesn't help me. It's not the same every time. You can't. Well, in my case, I can't just have every time I see this, then this. Every time I see this, then that. You know, yeah, you might see a bounce of, so you see a bounce of resistance on the 1 hour, but on the daily, it's at like this really strong resistance zone. It's like, I mean, yeah, it might go up a bit, but then it could just as easily turn around. And how far is it going to go? Where do I place my take profit? Where do I think about taking profits? And things like that. So, you know, sometimes I will take that, but I'll just have I'll just let it run as far as it goes and follow it with a stop loss. You know, sometimes I'll put my stop loss into profit because I know it could turn at any minute. There's a chance it could turn at any minute, and I don't want to risk losing what I've got. So I put my stop loss into profit. It's just you've got to adapt with what's going on. I have to adapt with what's happening on the chart. That's how I become profitable. And every time, like I've had these profitable periods and I've had these losing streaks. Every time I get profitable, I'm doing the same thing. It's what I'm doing now, which is just flowing with the market, allowing drawdown, thinking about where I'm going to add beforehand, and letting it go into drawdown as well. Being fine with that. It's okay. Nothing's concrete until you've closed the trade. Like that floating profit and loss thing, nothing has left your account yet. That's just what happens if you hit close order. You can mitigate that. There's many things you can do, and there's many things that will happen. And if you know, I'd prefer to adapt to the situation that's presented to me rather than say, if this, then that. Oh, that didn't happen. Damn, I must be really bad at reading the chart. I must brush up on my technical analysis book. You know, it's I don't even know technical analysis. Like, I really don't. I don't know the names of the patterns. I know head and shoulders and a trend, and that's about it. I don't know anything. I just look at it. I look at it and use my eyes to see what it's doing. rather than, oh well, if this, then I'm going to guess what's happening. No, it's don't think about what's going to happen. See what it's doing. It's going up, or it's going down, or it's bouncing at this zone. It's bounced here over and over again. So it's probably going to bounce again, you know? And then with experience, you'll learn to capitalize on it.
Okay. I guess to sort of tie things up, if you were to be able to put into words what you think will be kind of good guidance in your opinion for other people to start being able to transition into that profitability from either being like a break even or a losing trader, what things would you suggest?
Hmm. I mean, I know what worked for me was meditation and having a totally different outlook on what is, you know, good and bad. And, you know, a losing trade, is it bad? Somebody else won. Is that bad? The trade didn't do anything wrong. It just did what the trade did. You know, when I started looking at things like that, it helped me just be okay with being in drawdown. So I could say meditation and, you know, non-duality and all of that business, but that helped me. I don't think a lot of people are prepared to try that. You know, it's a bit like saying to someone, "Oh, you should come to my church. You'd really like it." To an atheist or something, they're just like they're not. I have no interest in it. Like, but you know, yeah, it helps me though. Yeah, okay, that's great for you, but I'm just. It's like trying to convince someone to be part of a religion, but it's so I don't know, but that is really what helped me. I guess keep it simple. Look at what it's doing. If it's what's so special about your trade that the chart is going to turn around and do exactly. It's been doing the same thing for the past X amount of days. It's been going up. Why do you think it's suddenly going to change just because of your trade?
Mhm.
Why, you know, what it's not. If it changes, it just did, and that's fine. You want to know. The trade wasn't to know. There's no giant market mover trying to hunt your stop loss. It just happened, and that's fine. And move on and get on to the next one. Let's keep it simple. Look at what it's doing. Try and get involved.
Okay. What do you think the best way is for a trader to get experience?
I would say very the smallest sizing possible, which is what I did. I went to the smallest sizing possible, and every week I was profitable. I increased it by the smallest increment I possibly the platform would allow me. So I started off at 10p a point, and I every week I was profitable. I upped it and I upped it and I upped it, and I got up to 70p a point, and I was profitable every week doing that. It gave me the freedom. It wasn't about making money at that point. It was about time on the charts and looking at what it's doing and reacting to things and seeing, oh, actually, it can go this far into drawdown. And look at this point here, it bounced and came back up. So I could have bought there. And like, okay, you might have been wrong and you lost some money, but it didn't blow your account. It just gives you the more money you make, like, sorry, the longer you have money in the account, the more time you can play for. So if you're brand new, I would say go on demo account just so you. But as far as I can tell, all that's good for is just learning to actually use the software, like use the platform, and understand how it works. But the emotional aspect of it was devastating to me when I went to trade with real money for the first time. I was crying and throwing up all over the place. It was terrible. Um, but yeah, so you really do need to. Trading with real money is vital, and losing substantial amounts of money with real money is vital because it's like a really harsh teacher, but it's important, and everyone's going to go through it. I'll go through it again. I know I will, and that's fine. I expect it.
Perfect.
So yeah, small sizing.
Rob, I appreciate your time today. I appreciate you taking the time out of your very busy schedule to be able to do this call and be able to share with us your experience in trading. Thank you.
Yes, that's yes. Look how busy I am.
All
All right,
right.
dude.
Cheers.